The manuscript came into my hands under circumstances I prefer not to recount in full. Let's just say there are people who keep secrets and sometimes in their final moments feel compelled to share them. The brown envelope with damp stains at the corners and a faint musty odor contained yellowed pages, typewritten in Italian with handwritten notes in the margins. On the first page was a faded Vatican stamp and the red inscription, classified, Omega level. What follows is my translation and compilation interwoven with what I discovered later in my investigations. I do not expect everyone to believe it, but I feel obligated to share. It all began in 1956, when Father Pio of Pietrelcina, the Italian Capuchin monk famed for his stigmata and mystical phenomena, had a vision that left him catatonic for 3 days. Official records mention only a temporary indisposition, but the private account of Father Augustine, his confessor, tells a different story. When Father Pio finally regained consciousness, his first whispers were, "The angels in Antarctica are awakening. May God help us all." The Vatican immediately dispatched an emissary to investigate these words, fearing that the venerated cleric was suffering from fever delirium. However, the papal envoy's report, Monsignor Francis Calabria, concluded that Father Pio was lucid and that his vision contained geographic details of Antarctica that would have been impossible for a man who had never left Italy to know. Calabria also noted that the monk appeared to have aged a decade in just 3 days, and that his palms, where the stigmata usually bled, now bore a bluish hue, as if frozen from within. Coincidentally, at that same time, the US Navy was launching Operation Deep Freeze Y, ostensibly a scientific mission to establish permanent bases on the Antarctic continent. Leaked documents from the period mention an extraordinary budget and the involvement of scientists normally assigned to nuclear and biological warfare programs. Admiral Richard E. Byrd, who led the expedition, would later write in his personal diary, confiscated after his death, though a few pages circulate in obscure internet forums. What we found beyond the ice barrier defies all human understanding. This is not a scientific mission, it is a reconnaissance. In Rome, the Vatican quietly mobilized a group called the Custodes Veritatis, Guardians of the Truth, an ancient order within the Church dedicated to investigating unexplained phenomena that could represent divine manifestations or threats to the faith. Led by Jesuit Father Lawrence Mazzini, an expert in theology and ancient cryptography, the group established discreet diplomatic channels with high-ranking US Navy officials. A meeting was arranged in Naples, away from the prying eyes of Washington, and Moscow, which in those Cold War years watched each other with mounting paranoia. Father Mazzini's own account of that meeting describes the presence of 3 American officers and a German scientist recruited after the war, one of the many beneficiaries of Operation Paperclip. The scientist, identified only as Dr. UK, presented aerial photographs showing anomalies in the ice formations of eastern Antarctica. Perfect geometric structures invisible on the surface but detectable by newly developed radar equipment. They are like cathedrals of ice, Mazzini wrote, built to Fibonacci proportions and aligned with constellations that haven't been visible in our night sky for at least 12,000 years. The German scientists theorized that the structures were ancient, possibly pre-Diluvian, and that increased seismic activity in the region, another recorded anomaly, suggested something within those formations was awakening. The specific word used in his report was erwachen, which in German literally means to awaken. 2 days after that meeting, a seismograph at the Vatican Observatory recorded an unusual seismic wave seeming to originate in Antarctica, but detected by no other station worldwide. Father Mazzini noted that when the wave pattern was converted to audible frequencies, it produced a harmonic sequence matching passages in Aramaic from the Book of Enoch, an apocryphal text describing fallen angels and beings known as the Watchers. Meanwhile, Father Pio continued to have visions. His assistant, Brother Modestine, secretly recorded some of his murmurs during trance episodes. They are not as we imagine. Their wings are of shadow and light. They sleep in the depths. They await the signal. The sacred geometry is complete again. In March 1957, a Soviet expedition in Antarctica reported losing contact with a team of 5 researchers investigating a crevasse in Wilkes Land. When a rescue party arrived, they found only abandoned equipment and a notebook filled with obsessive sketches of geometric symbols interspersed with words in an unknown script. The Soviets suppressed the incident, but one of the rescue doctors, Dmitry Volkov, defected during a layover in Argentina and sought asylum at the Italian embassy. Volkov brought with him a small ice sample from the crevasse. Preliminary analyses, conducted secretly at the University of Bologna, revealed microorganisms never seen before, and traces of a metal that remained liquid, even in temperatures approaching absolute zero. More disturbing still, the water molecules in the ice were misaligned in ways that defied known quantum physics. Professor John Rizzi, who performed the tests, wrote in his confidential report, "This is not merely different ice, it's as though physical reality itself is altered within it. The laws of physics seem to bend in impossible ways, as if this material obeys another set of rules, possibly from another place." Rizzi was found dead in his lab a week later, apparently, from severe hypothermia, despite the heating system functioning perfectly and the outside temperature being 59 in July that day. All samples of the Antarctic ice vanished along with his notes. Officially, his death was ruled a heart attack. At this point in the narrative, I pause for a brief commentary. I have spent years gathering these fragments, connecting dots that time and powerful interests sought to separate. If you value these revelations, consider subscribing to our digital archive. There are many more documents like this that must be preserved and shared before they vanish forever into the shadows of official history. Now, back to the account. In July 1957, during a private audience with Pope Pius XIII, Father Pio delivered a sealed envelope with instructions to open it only if the waters rise and the stars shift. The envelope's contents remain unknown, but persistent rumors within the Vatican suggest it contained precise coordinates of sites in Antarctica and a set of prayers in a pre-Babylonian tongue. Dr. K, meanwhile, had returned to Antarctica with a new expedition that included experts in ancient linguistics, comparative theology, and theoretical physics, a strange combination for a supposedly geological mission. Among them was James Warner, a linguist experienced in Sumerian and Akkadian texts, who had previously decoded ciphers for the NSA during World War II. Warner's journal, recovered after his mysterious disappearance in 1962, contains chilling descriptions of what the team discovered roughly half a mile beneath the ice. The structures were not built, he wrote. They appear grown like crystals or living organisms following mathematical patterns our computers cannot fully process. The walls emit a faint pulsing luminescence as though breathing, and the symbols, they move when we are not looking directly at them. Warner also noted that several expedition members reported identical dreams, a vast underground chamber where humanoid figures with multiple pairs of wings floated suspended inside crystalline cocoons. They are not angels, as in Christian iconography, Warner observed. They more closely resemble the seraphim of Ezekiel's visions or the watchers mentioned in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Dr. K believes we are witnessing the awakening of beings that have been hibernating for millennia. Meanwhile, in San Giovanni Rotondo, Father Pio's health rapidly declined. Doctors could not explain his symptoms. His body temperature had dropped to levels incompatible with life. His blood contained microscopic crystals of an unknown structure, and his stigmata now glowed faintly blue in dark environments. Most disturbing were his compulsive drawings of winged beings with impossible geometries, identical to the symbols found by the Antarctic expedition. In December 1957, the Vatican seismic station recorded another series of anomalies accompanied by magnetic fluctuations that disrupted electronics across the southern hemisphere. Meteorological records show that same week saw unprecedented auroras as far north as Argentina and South Africa. An official from the Argentine Meteorological Service described them as curtains of bluish-green light, forming patterns akin to ancient script in the sky. Dr. K sent a coded transmission to the Vatican containing only two phrases: confirmed, they are awakened. 3 days later, all contact with the expedition was lost. A U.S. rescue team found the camp abandoned, equipment still powered, and meals left half-eaten, as though everyone had left in haste or been taken against their will. The only clue was a partially corrupted audio recording capturing wind, static, and, in its final seconds, a harmonious chant in multiple voices. Later, analysis determined it contained frequencies beyond human hearing. In January 1958, the Vatican secretly dispatched 3 Custodes Veritatis members to investigate: Father Lawrence Mazzini, Dr. Alexander Rossi, an expert in biblical archaeology, and Sister Mary Celestine, a Benedictine nun reputed for her skill in interpreting ancient texts and, rumors say, for mystical experiences akin to Father Pio's. Officially, they were en route to a theological conference in Chile. In truth, they were bound for the coordinates Father Pio had provided. The only record of that expedition is a set of letters Sister Celestine sent to her convent in Milan, coded as innocent spiritual reflections. Decoded with a key based on biblical numerology, they reveal disturbing observations. We arrived at the marked location. What we found is not a structure built by human hands or any known ancient civilization. It is organic, alive, seeming to grow through the very fabric of reality. Father Mazzini says this confirms his theory that what we call angels may, in fact, be interdimensional life forms that occasionally cross into our plane of existence. In another letter she wrote, Rossi discovered inscriptions matching fragments of the Book of Enoch and older Sumerian texts. They speak of those who watch between worlds and of a cycle of awakening tied to certain celestial alignments. The next such alignment occurs in 2023. I fear what that might mean for humanity. Her final letter was brief and urgent. They have seen us. They know we are here. Father Mazzini made direct contact and now is different. His eyes, God forgive him, but his eyes are no longer human. Rossi disappeared last night. I hide this letter in the ruins of the old weather station, hoping someone will find it. Do not come after us, pray only. None of the 3 ever returned. The Vatican officially recorded their deaths in an airplane crash over the Andes. Their bodies were never recovered. In September 1968, on his deathbed, Father Pio had one last vision that left him ecstatically rapt for hours. Brother Modestine, the only one present, recorded his final words. They are not what we think. They are neither angels nor demons. They are older, much older. They were here before us, sleeping in the depths, waiting. The ice holds them at bay, but it is melting. When the last barrier falls, they will walk among us again, and we will recognize them, for their faces will be familiar. After Father Pio's death, the Vatican sealed his body for 72 hours before the public funeral, an unusual procedure that fueled speculation. Rumors among Vatican staff suggest examinations were conducted due to unexplainable anomalies. His corpse showed no rigor mortis, remained unnaturally cold, and the stigmata continued to emit the same bluish glow observed in his later years. In the decades that followed, Antarctic activity intensified. Officially, the Various international bases focus on scientific, meteorological, and climate research. However, satellite imagery analysis reveals constructions and excavations in remote areas, far from official stations and precisely at the coordinates Father Pio provided. In 1987, a curious event occurred. Delegations from the Vatican, the US, the USSR, the UK, and several other nations signed the Antarctic Environmental Protection Protocol, banning mineral exploration on the continent for 50 years. The official rationale was environmental, but leaked documents suggest the real motive was to prevent deep excavations in sensitive zones. A partially redacted US Defense Department memo mentions uncatalogued entities and dimensional anomalies, posing unprecedented global security risks. In 2001, a British Antarctic survey team detected an electromagnetic wave pattern emanating from a point beneath eastern Antarctica's ice. The pulses occurred at intervals matching the prime number sequence, an unmistakably artificial, possibly intelligent signal. The finding was never officially published, and 3 involved scientists died under mysterious circumstances in subsequent years. The 4th, Dr. Elizabeth Moray, vanished after sending an enigmatic email to a colleague. They are in the ice, but they are also in the sky. The ancients were right. Stars are angels, angels are stars. In 2016, NASA sensors reported a significant rise in subglacial temperatures across several regions of Antarctica, particularly at the coordinates from Father Pio's visions. Accelerated melting partially uncovered geometric structures buried under hundreds of meters of ice. Classified satellite images show perfect hexagonal formations stretching for miles, with fractal patterns repeating at progressively smaller scales, architectural impossibilities for known human technology. An anonymous European Space Agency informant leaked a report indicating these formations emit radiation pulses that disrupt normal human brain function. Personnel at the nearest base reported shared vivid dreams and, in some cases, altered behavior, including attempts to walk unprotected towards specific ice sites, as though responding to a call. In January 2020, an unprecedented meteorological phenomenon was observed in the Antarctic sky. Stratospheric clouds formed precise geometric patterns that remained stable for hours, defying all atmospheric models. Simultaneously, instruments across the continent recorded a low-frequency chant emanating from the ice, the same harmonic pattern described in recordings from the lost 1957 expedition. In March 2020, as the world focused on the emerging pandemic, a joint special forces operation from multiple countries quietly mobilized to Antarctica. Officially, it was an extreme environment rescue drill, but leaked documents indicate the true mission was to secure and possibly neutralize something that had emerged from the ice. What transpired during that operation remains one of the most closely guarded secrets of recent history. Military communication logs show contact was lost with the main team 72 hours after arrival. The final transmissions referenced living, light, impossible architecture, and repeatedly mentioned something called the complete sacred geometry. A week later, satellites detected a massive thermal anomaly in the region, followed by a brief electromagnetic pulse that temporarily disrupted communications across the southern hemisphere. When systems came back online, reconnaissance images showed only a vast depression in the ice, as if something enormous had emerged or been removed. In the months that followed, amateur and professional astronomers reported sightings of unidentified objects near the poles exhibiting movement that defies known physics. Instant acceleration, right-angle turns, and occasional flashes in and out of visibility, as though traversing dimensions. In a particularly unsettling development, several people worldwide, unconnected by any obvious link, began producing structures identical to those described in the Antarctic. Reports, when asked about their inspiration, many claimed to have received the images in dreams or as direct transmissions to the mind. Some of these individuals later disappeared or were hospitalized with inexplicable neurological symptoms. In December 2022, the Vatican announced the formation of a new theological commission to re-examine biblical and apocryphal texts concerning angels, especially passages in Ezekiel, Daniel, and Enoch describing entities with complex geometries and multiple dimensions. Coincidentally, at the same time, NASA and other space agencies accelerated programs monitoring near-Earth objects and anomalous atmospheric phenomena. As I write these lines, I observe patterns few are connecting. The surge of polar auroras, inexplicable satellite malfunctions at mathematically precise intervals, increasing reports of shared dreams featuring geometric beings and unknown languages, and the accelerated melting of Antarctic ice at specific coordinates. Father Pio's final vision seems to be unfolding before our eyes, though few notice. The angels in Antarctica, whether interdimensional entities, visitors from another time or space, or something entirely beyond our comprehension, are awakening. What this portends for humanity remains uncertain, but the patterns suggest we stand on the brink of a revelation that will fundamentally redefine our understanding of the universe and our place within it. The coordinates I found in the original manuscript point to a site now exhibiting anomalous thermal activity. I had planned to travel there myself, but I have recently realized I am being watched. Strange figures have been lurking near my home. Phone calls have come through as static punctuated by a chant. In my dreams, I see crystalline structures and beings of impossible geometry, inviting me to see clearly. I share all this not to sow panic, but because the truth, no matter how unsettling, deserves to be known. The veil between worlds grows thin. What slumbered is stirring. And perhaps, as Father Pio foresaw, these beings are not entirely alien to us. Maybe, on some profound level, we recognize them. And you, reading these words, have you ever felt inexplicably watched when alone? Have you had dreams of flight in crystalline realms that felt more real than reality? Have you heard whispers in static or glimpsed movements in the sky that defy explanation? If so, you too may be sensing what is emerging. The question I leave you with: if these ancient beings are truly awakening, do they come as messengers, watchers, or something altogether different? And more importantly, what do they want from us?